Hey y'all, this is something personal that I'm publishing. It's going to be, some tea time talks with my grandmother Lollie, because I think it's really important. We record our grandmothers, our grandfathers, just people important in your life in general. My grandmother is from Atlanta, Georgia. She is quite Southern. So if you've never heard, I actually bet you've never heard an accent like this. So it's very soothing. We're going to have a lot of funny talks, philosophical talks, but in general, this is just my way of recording my grandmother, and y'all get to hear advice from someone who's a 90-year-old. So I hope you enjoy it. And by the way, the quality of the audio is not how I prefer. If you listen to my other episodes of my podcast, the quality is a lot better. It's because I didn't bring my equipment when we recorded. So we recorded straight off the iPhone. So in the future, we're going to record with the right equipment. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, go ahead, get your favorite tea. If you're not a tea person, coffee, just cozy up. And I hope y'all enjoy the episode. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy tea time.
So, first of all, I want to start every episode by whatever tea that we're drinking. So I chose my favorite, one of my favorites, Earl Grey. Which, how do you feel about Earl Grey tea?
Oh, I think it's delicious.
Yeah, and we're having it the English way, right? Which is just...
I like it the English way with cream and sugar. I think Earl Grey is very appropriate in the afternoon. And I usually have a cup of tea around 4:30. So this is very much in keeping with my own routine.
Now, have you always been a tea person? Because I've not really been a tea person.
I have always been a tea person. My mother had tea time every afternoon at 4 o'clock, and sometimes the neighbors would come in and enjoy tea with her because they knew Miss Lott's going to have tea at 4 o'clock, and she would sit on the front porch in the summer and the spring, and some of them would just be walking by, and they would see my mother on her porch, and they'd come in, and she'd always pour them a cup of tea. And I knew people in my neighborhood because of my mother's tea parties.
See, I feel like tea, is like a community thing if it is more than a drink. It means a lot of things to people.
Let me say first,
okay.
Marie, this is so much fun for me, and you've told me about this a few days ago, and I really look forward to it because I want to hear what you and your generation are thinking on some of these questions. And so this is going to be an interesting and really informative tea time for me. I do have a question. Are you reading a recreational book right now?
Oh my gosh, amazing. I would love to answer this.
Wonderful.
Okay, it's a book for you, and not just for you, for anyone listening who wants a mental challenge. Have you heard of the book Life of Pi?
Oh, yeah.
Did you read it?
I did.
What did you think about it?
Oh, I thought it was gripping. And it has an unusual twist, and I'm not going to tell you about it, but it starts out as a fantasy, and then it evolves. I'm just going to tell you that much. It evolves, and I think you're going to close it with some little bit of questioning and some dissatisfaction. Did I really comprehend this, or do I want to read it again? And I think that's the mark of a good read, is that, I'd like to read that again.
Yeah, what reason I like the book is, he talks a lot about religion. So remember in the beginning, he visits a mosque, a church, and his Hindu temple, and all the priests, all of the men got really angry that he was visiting all of the churches, all of religious temples, and he was like, "What's the problem? He sees God in a all-encompassing way, while they see God in like a human way," and I think it's interesting. And what's interesting about the book, in the beginning of the book, he says he meets the author. In the author's note, the author starts by saying, "I've been so dismayed by writing for so long. I kept writing duds. I could never write a good book. I was in India, and I met this man at a coffee shop, and he said, I have a good story for you." And he's like, "You need to meet this guy, Pi." And so it's I'm kind of confused. I know you already read the book, but he's making it sound like this is a true story. Like he actually met this man in India who told him this story. So for anyone who's reading this, I think this book is a trip.
borders fantasy and reality, it seems like.
And it also involves philosophy. You mentioned religion. The philosophical thrust of this is very intriguing. But this young man on this boat he's dealing with some philosophical issues, and religion is part of the whole genre of philosophy. And I began to admire him. As I read that book, I began to admire that young man and his adventures on that boat, his interaction with the creatures on the boat. I began to really identify with him. I do remember now that you talked about it. I think this is a true story, and as I recall reading that about the author, that he did meet a young man who gave him this story to write on. Now, whether it's in detail the same, or whether it's just a suggestion. But I'm glad you're reading it. It will become a classic. Now, usually books are not considered classics under 100 years, or at least through 2 generations. But I think this is already a classic. And when you mention The Life of Pi, most people's ears will pick up that either read it or they've heard about it.
Or the movie.
Or the movie.
I think for people who are looking for a book, if you want to learn about animals in general, he goes in great detail about how animals are. I think it's a really good book if you want to read just beautiful words in general. And I think it's a good book if you are kind of feeling lost in life, maybe philosophically, religiously. It literally says in the sleeve of the book, this book will make you believe in God, which, who knows about that? But it's just, I think it's a powerful story, but it's also beautiful.
But you do worry about the young man and his relationship with his tiger. You wonder how dangerous is this. But I think it is a struggle for this young man to deal with reality and to deal with something beyond himself. It is beyond humanism. And I think that's what he's struggling with, reality and something beyond the real. And because this, as I said, starts out as a fantasy. And it reads like a fantasy, but by the time you finish, this is a deep philosophical examination. And I'm excited. I want to know what you think of it after you finish.
Which country or place do you wish you got to go to?
Well, I guess one that I never really was able to see like I wanted to see was France. I went all over Europe, but I never made it far enough. I never got into Paris, and I really regret I never went into Paris. So if I could take a trip somewhere now, I think I would board a plane for Paris. And if I just spent there 1 week, I would be happy. If I could go back to a place that I've been, I'd go back to Rome.
Everyone loves Rome.
Rome has a unique fascination for most people. I think you cannot go to Rome, even more than Athens. Rome has an intrigue, a thrill about being there and seeing the antiquity of Rome. I don't know what it is about it, because they became so powerful and then collapsed under their own weight. It's an enigma how something so grand and so magnificent and apparently so intelligent and so advanced could collapse on itself. And that history of Rome and that being in that area and seeing the antiquity of the Roman architecture and the Roman government and the Roman baths and the Circus Maximus, I just think that going back to Rome would be what I would want to do after I made my trip to Paris.
You were born in the
1927.
Okay. So you've seen so many changes. I think this era, the last century, is the most advanced century we've ever had. We went from the 1910s where you just had a telephone to now, I don't even have to describe the technology today. It's insane. So of all the technological advances, which one blew your mind? Was it the jet airplane, the refrigerator, the television, maybe even the iPhone? Which one, in your memory personally, really blew your mind?
Well, now, if we talk about historically, the thing that really grabbed me was TV. I could not believe that somebody in New York was speaking to me down here in Atlanta, Georgia. It doesn't seem possible. And I guess if I had to isolate one particular thrust of surprise and intrigue, would have been when they put the TV in our house and I saw a picture from another part of the country in my living room.
So live. Crazy.
I think now the thing that intrigues me most is the smartphone. That with this smartphone, you can contact anybody in the world at any time of day. You not only can speak to them, you can see them, or you can find out information that you only had to depend on the Encyclopedia Britannica before. It's right there. And I used to sell World Book encyclopedias, and I was so proud that I could introduce that to a young family. Oh, you've got the history of the world in the palm of your hand. Now, those people are out of business because of this cell phone. It has everything the Encyclopedia Britannica had. This is like the Library at Alexandria, which is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. We've got that Smithsonian Institute, we've got the Congressional Library, we've got the Library at Alexandria, we've got the world in the palm of our hand. That is unbelievable to me.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is we don't spend all day learning. I try to. I go on YouTube a lot because you can learn a lot of things on YouTube. But that's what's crazy. It's like we have so much information to learn on just right there. Anything I want to know, I can learn it.
Well, and that presents a problem because we become dependent on a device rather than dependent on our own brain. And that is the danger in this. We are so dependent on our... And I think one of my questions for you is, of all your electronic devices, if you lost one, what would hurt you the most? And I was going to be interested in hearing what you have to say. But we may be preempting that question.
No, it's a good question.
But I think now the cell phone has become such an extension of ourselves. We are lost without alter ego. And that's what the cell phone has become. That's the other me. I need that. There's my brain, my information, my communication venue. I need that cell phone with me all the time. And now even that my little isolated life that I live, if I can't find my cell phone, I go into a semi-panic. Why would that be happening to me now at this age? But that's how the culture and the love affair we have with the cell phone has impacted all of our lives. None of us now, unless you're living in complete isolation in a cave, you are dependent on that cell phone. And I'm not criticizing it. I think it's a marvelous, marvelous thing. But I would warn everyone, let's don't forfeit our own ability to think and reason and remember, forfeit it by dependence on an electronic device. We cannot do that. We need to sustain ourselves as intellectuals, as reasonable, independent thinkers.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And to answer your question, if I lost my cell phone, which I have before, actually, I felt really good. The problem that I was having the most and where I would really struggle is if I did not have a clock or time.
Oh, well, that's because it's a disorientation. If you do not know where you are in time and space, you are disoriented. And that is what we're putting ourselves into. We have to connect with the earth. We have to connect with the land. We have to connect with nature. We're separating ourselves from that. We are living in a virtual, false time frame. And we as human beings need to be close to the earth.
So my question for you is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say, Charlotte, take advantage of every opportunity you had to learn something new. I think that to allow our minds to be indolent or lazy or indifferent, and we miss an opportunity to learn something that will be of value later. Take advantage of every opportunity you have of learning. And that's why I went into education, and especially the young mind. The young mind is just it's like a beautiful lump of clay that can be molded and shaped in any direction. And to take a young child and not give them every opportunity to learn about the beauty and glory of the world, and to poison them with prejudices or hatred or biasness, it's so wrong when there's so much beauty and excitement out there in the world. Learning about other people's cultures, learning another language, learning about other countries or other religions. Expand your knowledge, use your mind. Never let your mind be inactive or indifferent. I tell you another thing that I learned to do early. My father taught me this. Try to learn a new word in your vocabulary every day. Add something in your vocabulary that you may not want to use it out when you go somewhere. When you're out in a public place, you don't want to try to be a show-off.
Yeah.
And use $50 words in a $10 conversation. But when you read something, oh, I know what that means. I don't have to run to the Webster Dictionary to look it up. I know what that means. These are important small baby steps when you're in your young selves. Take advantage of every opportunity you have to learn something new.
That's perfectly said. I agree. We should not be lazy. We should use our minds. And what's your last question for this tea time?
Okay, you want me to do a fun
one?
What is your best fitness exercise?
Oh! Okay, well, swimming. I could swim all day. But last but not least, tennis. We talked about this earlier. We both love tennis. Tennis is the ultimate sport. It's so fun. You get to look cute, first of all. Cute tennis skirt, matching your cute tennis outfit, cute visor, cute white shoes, and it's a strategy game. I'm always trying to outsmart the other person, but it's also a game you can bring each other up on. It's fun. It's also the first sport, because I'm a perfectionist. I'm not going to lie, I get really bogged down on perfection. It's the first sport I ever did where if I mess up, I laugh instead of going, ugh. You know, in dance, if I mess up in dance, I get so frustrated. But in tennis, I'll trip over myself, the ball will go flying, and I just laugh. And it's like, oh my God, this is the first sport or thing, one of the few things in my life where I can just have fun.
Well, that's all right, because there's a lot of fitness in tennis. You're using all of your muscles in tennis. Plus, you're using your mind. You've got to anticipate what your opponent is going to do and then be alert if it doesn't turn out like you thought. Am I flexible enough to adapt to that surprise? Yeah, takes mental ability and mental acuity. I'm thrilled that you like tennis. It was one of my favorite in college, as I think I've told you earlier. I played a good bit of tennis, a good bit of golf, but tennis was the one that really demanded more physical exercise than golf. I think as long as you think of the sport as a recreational, that I'm not so dedicated to it that I'm sacrificing other things for that. I think as long as it is joyous, you do it, but it's fun. Win or lose, I love the game. And I think that was over when I was in high school, there was a big sign over the gymnasium as you walked in. It said, love the game above the prize.
Oh, I love that.
I thought, what a marvelous thing to remember when you're playing any sport. Love the game above the prize. Win or lose, I love the game. And I think that makes the game interesting, it makes it fun, and it makes you willing to share it with another person.
I think that's something you could apply to any other things in your life, though. Let's say it's a passion. Let's say you really want to become a successful painter. The prizes may or may not be there for you, but you have to make sure that you love it, love the process of it. You know, that happens to a lot of actors, actually. They focus so hard on getting famous, but the minute they get it, they get depressed because they put all their energy on the goal and not the love of becoming an actor. So I think that's something you could apply in general to other things in life, not just sports.
Well, I think you've said something very profound, Marie. When we put product above process, we have lost the essence of the endeavor. When product is all that counts, and we lose the love of the process, then we have lost the essence of what we were trying to accomplish. And I think this can be true in anything. If you love the product, the outcome is all that matters. Then you're tempted to do things that maybe are not exactly right. And you will shortcut, or you will take advantage, or you will exploit. Because the product is so important. Whatever it takes to win is more important than how did I get there. And I think keeping that in anything that we do, what is the process like? How am I going to feel about myself when I see the product? Am I going to be proud of it but ashamed of what I did to get it? But I think that's something that we have to learn as we go along, that the process is equally important, if not more important, than the outcome.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And so just to wrap up our tea time episode, just maybe after this, go do something you are passionate about, but don't think of the outcome of the passion. You know, maybe that's like going to paint something or writing a song or going to play tennis. Or maybe go do something after this that you just love doing it, you know, and don't think of like, the effects of it. I think that's something we can leave with people.
Well, and I think, Marie, that's the essence of a balanced life. That you balance your life not only with the serious and the intentional, you also balance it with the unexpected, the joyous, the frivolous, the fun. You've got to have that balanced life. And I think all of us search for that, but we are so consumed by the product or the outcome. We forget that there is a process in between our beginning and our ending. It's like they talk about the dash between the day you're born and the day you die. What's important is in the dash. It's not in the 2 dates. And I think that dash is the process. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think when we take our little tea break, we can just think of something we really like to do and do together that we can share. And I look forward to that. This has been fun. Thank you, Marie.
Isn't it fun?
This is lots of fun.
Now let's do a cheers to end it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Till next time.
To tea.
Okay, yay. I hope y'all enjoyed your first Tea Time with Lollie episode. I really just want to soak in that advice of just, you know, not getting caught up in the outcome of things. I can catch myself doing that a lot especially with this podcast and all. And I like how she explained that, and make sure you don't get too caught up on stuff and you just remember to have fun, which is why I'm posting this. I just love talking to my Lollie and I want y'all to hear it. So I'll post a couple more of these until season 3 comes out for my podcast, The Culture Cult Travel Show. But some episodes you have to look forward coming up. We're going to talk about the royal family and Lollie's opinion on Harry and Meghan. And we're going to talk about really good dating advice that she gives. And then we're also going to talk about basketball, but not just any kind of basketball, women's basketball from like the 40s. And it's ridiculous. So, you know, we have some stuff to look forward to. And yeah. And let me know if you have any questions that you want to ask Lollie. You know, maybe you don't have a grandparents anymore and you want to hear this kind of perspective. Totally reach out to me on my Instagram at culturecultshow and just be like, hey, can you ask this to Grandmother Lollie? She would love that. I would love that. So, okay, cool. I will see you next time for tea time.